Hi there, today I'm going to show you how to do a double exposure technique on Photoshop. So I'm going to be using these two images here. So I'm just going to click and drag them into Photoshop. Open them up in Photoshop. Okay, so first of all I want to work with this portrait of a model that I've got on a white background, and I need to cut her out of this background. So I'm going to do this by selecting the Quick Selection tool. So if I just click and drag the Quick Selection tool over the model, it will select the model for me. Okay. Before I move her or cut her out, I'm going to go to the Refine Edge button at the top, and I'm going to click the Smart Radius tick box. So if I just move my cursor over the image, you'll be able to see this little brush tool appear. Okay. So I need to increase the size of this to about 85, and this should just be enough to cover and go around the edges of the hair. So if I click and drag around the edges of the hair, you will see that it will select and make appear these little bits of hair that the selection tool didn't get before. Okay, I'm just going to zoom in quickly because I quite like to get this bit of eyelash here. Okay, so once you've done that, on this Refine Edge window, if you go down to the Output section and this little drop down menu, we need to select New Layer, Output to New Layer, and then we need to select OK. So that's going to give us a new layer with the selection we just made. So now we have these two layers. If I just select the eye icon on the background layer, I can fill this whole background layer with white, so I can get rid of the original image. So we do that by going to Edit, down to Fill, and then we make sure we can fill it with white. And there we go. Okay, so selecting the background copy again. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is open up our landscape layer we're going to be using for the double exposure, and I'm just going to use the Move tool to click and drag it over to our project that we're working on. Now this is already quite a good size, but if you do want to resize it, you can do that by pressing Ctrl and T, and that will give us the transform tool, and we can actually change the scale with that. But in this circumstance, I'm not going to do that. Okay, so I'm just going to reposition this a little bit. There we go. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is control and click the layer thumbnail, so this little image here. Control and click, and you see that that brings out the selection that we previously made. Now, making sure that the layer 1 landscape layer is selected, I'm going to select the layer mask, which is this little icon down at the bottom. And there we go. This has masked the layer underneath, so we've now just got the outline of the model with the image coming through. As you can see here, we've got this little chain link icon, which means it's locked. These two are locked together. So if we just click that to unlock those, and we need to click and highlight this thumbnail. Now if I make sure I'm selected the Move tool, I can then move the image inside of the model. So I'm just going to position that how I like it. Okay, then the next thing we need to do is reselect the background copy and duplicate that by pressing Ctrl and J. So now I've got two copies of this. Now your second copy, you can click and drag it to the top of the layer stack. and then we need to make it black and white. So this time I'm going to make it black and white by pressing Control, Shift and U. Once you've made it black and white, you can click on the Blending Modes drop-down menu and select Multiply. Now, once you've selected Multiply, you can see that this black and white layer has actually gone slightly opaque, so you can actually see through it. So the next thing I'm going to do is actually make another layer mask. So I'm going to just go back down to the layer mask icon and click the layer mask, add a layer mask. Okay, and then I'm going to select the brush tool on the left hand toolbar. So select the brush tool, make sure I've got a soft edge, and you can size and resize your brush in the image by pressing the square bracket keys. I'm going to take my opacity down to about 70% in this instance, and then I'm just going to start drawing on this brush, painting on this brush. And as you can see, it takes away the detail that that black and white layer has provided us with. So I'm going to be very careful to keep in the details of the face here, but I'm going to rub out a lot of everything else. I quite like some of this texture that this hair provides, so I'm going to leave a little bit of that in. Okay, now I'm really happy with that. So if you wish to move your background layer again, just to resize it and move it around the mouth, you can do. You need to make sure that you have this layer selected. You also need to make sure you've got that thumbnail of the background layer, that thumbnail of the background image selected as well. You can use your move tool and then you can move it along. Okay. So we can leave it like this, but I'm just going to show you something extra you can do, which is really good for presentation. So I'm going to make sure I've got layer 1 selected, and if I just click down here on my foreground and background colors, this will bring up your color box. Then I'm going to use the little color capture tool to capture a color on here, and as you can see, it matches that color on your color picker. And I'm actually going to bring this up a bit so it's near enough white, but not all the way white. And then I'm going to select my background, and like we did before, I'm going to go to Edit and Fill. And I'm going to select foreground color, which will be this color that we selected, and then press OK. And now you can see that that's given us not a white color, but it's given us like a little bit of color on the background. Another thing I'm going to do is actually bring this image, the landscape image, the background image that we use. I'm going to bring this image back over again. Okay, and that should automatically make you a new layer. So with this layer, I'm going to move it all the way to the top of the layer stack, and I'm going to go to Filter, Blur, and Gaussian Blur. Now I'm going to blur it just under 200 pixels and press OK. Now we need to make another layer mask again, so this icon, and we need to select the brush tool, and I'm just going to bring back through our double exposure image. Once you've done that and you're happy with it, you can go to the layer opacity and then bring that down. So we're going to make a real subtle difference in the background. So just make it just so the eye can just about see it. So you around 18, probably around 20%, and there we have it. And that's how you make a double exposure image in Photoshop.